Krishna talks about Karma Yoga. So please go back and read the middle 17 to 35. I'm going to ask questions in next class. I guess we can start with verse number 26 now. Is the definition clear? What is Karma Yoga? What are the two types? And how is it one of the steps in my journey towards Bhakti Yoga?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So who would like to read?
I can read, Mataji.
Okay, Mataji, please go ahead.
Na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanganam joshayed sarva karmani vidvan yuktah samacharan. Translation: Let not the wise disrupt the minds of the ignorant who are attached to fruitive action. They should not be encouraged to refrain from work, but to engage in work in the spirit of devotion. Purport: Vedaishta sarvair ahameva vedyaha. That is the end of all Vedic rituals. All rituals, all performances of sacrifices, and everything that is put into the Vedas, including all directions of material activities, are meant for understanding Krishna, who is the ultimate goal of life. But because the conditioned souls do not know anything beyond sense gratification, they study the Vedas to the end, to that end. Through sense regulations, however, one is gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a realized soul in Krishna consciousness should not disturb others in their activities or understanding, but he should act by showing how the results of all work can be dedicated to the service of Krishna. The learned Krishna conscious person may act in such a way that the ignorant person working for sense gratification will learn how to act and how to behave. Although the ignorant man is not to be disturbed in his activities, still a slightly developed Krishna conscious person may directly be engaged in the service of the Lord without waiting for other Vedic formulas. For this fortunate man, there is no need to follow the Vedic rituals because in direct Krishna consciousness, one can have all the results simply by following the prescribed duties of a particular person.
Thank you, Mataji. Although the ignorant man is not to be disturbed in his activities, still a slightly developed Krishna conscious person may directly be engaged in the service of the Lord without waiting for other Vedic formulas. Okay. So we live in a world where there is a mixture of matter and spirit, right? There are two things in this world: material and spiritual. So before coming to Krishna consciousness, one was just leading a so-called normal life, which was defined by the society one lives in. What is normal for America may not be normal for India, right? So society we live in defines our normalcy. But Krishna consciousness teaches us how to differentiate between matter and spirit, which is uniformly correct all over which is uniformly the same all over the planetary systems. Even if one goes to the heavenly planet, one still needs to learn the same thing over there: how to separate the matter from the spirit. How can I get the spiritual part and then leave the material part? So this is the definition. Let's say that because we are living in such an environment, majority of the people around us or circumstances around us are material, because we have put ourselves in it, in a situation like that. So what do? Blame them? Should we blame the people around us? Oh, you're so non-Krishna conscious. Oh, your life is useless. Oh, you are going to hell. Should we do that? Krishna says no. No. Let not the wise disrupt the minds of the ignorance who are attached to fruitive actions. No, don't do that. First of all, we should not be finding fault in anyone. Because the thing is that if we find fault, then we partake the karma of the person that we are finding fault in, and the other person is actually getting rid of their karma. Finding fault is a job of an authority. Why? Because they find fault and then they also tell what to do about that fault. Okay, they just don't find fault and leave the person with that label on their head. Oh, you are like this. So it's a very tricky situation. Some parents, when I talk about it, some parents ask, "Oh, so we cannot find fault in our children?" No, of course you can find fault in your children because you have your authority. You know, if you're finding fault, then you also tell them what to do. You just don't tell them what not to do or what they should not be. Rather, what kind of a characteristic trait is better, right? Don't we do that?
Yes,
But
Mataji.
unnecessarily going and labeling people, oh, you are Krishna conscious, oh, you're not Krishna conscious, oh, you're Krishna conscious, that's not going to help anyone because we are not acharyas. They should not be encouraged to refrain from work, but to engage in work in the spirit of devotion. Sorry. So we can, if I want to change someone, I need to set an example for it. Action speaks louder than words. I need to set an example for it. If I want my child to chant, I should be chanting first. If I want my child to read Bhagavatam, I should be reading. It should be available in the house first. I should be reading it. Okay, because children specifically learn more by the examples set forth by their parents rather than the speech that their parents give. So, and in general, we also learn more by the example, that what kind of a character is the person around me carrying rather than giving the speeches, right? You can do a little survey of your own little life, that how many times have we followed our somebody superior from the heart just by what they said, and how many times have we followed somebody around us from the examples that they have set in their own lives? Are you following me, or am I
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
confusing?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, so the bottom line is that we could not tell anyone to stop their work. We can this latest Bhagavad Gita 18 day that I just finished. One person asked me a very difficult question. I still don't know the answer. He said, by listening to these classes, I feel a bit confused and guilty now. I say, oh, why? What happened? Oh, actually, because I work in a restaurant in a Western country and I serve beef. And sometimes I tell them which one to try out, which one is better than the other. But now I feel guilty about the whole thing. What should I do? You see, this is a very tough question for me because there are a lot of barriers between me and the people at the other end, because we're not sitting in the same room. Yes, now that with your class, like we have known each other for a couple of months, so it's different. But one person just comes up. So what should I? So I thought, like, what should I say? Don't work. I gave him a very, I call it as a politically correct answer that listen, the decision is yours what you want to do, because Krishna consciousness is very personal. It's very, yes, we can all discuss it, but at the end the journey is very personal. It's a very, very personal thing. The most personal thing anybody can ever have in their life is their own Krishna conscious journey. But it will be interesting to find out what are the barriers. Are you I don't maybe you are satisfied in some other terms because of the job that you're doing, or maybe this is where the place where you're working is where you've been wanting to be at, or maybe you're too good at your work. There's some barrier, so it'll be interesting to explore what the barrier is. But I never told him what not to do and what to do. So like that, I'm not a good example, but we can look at Prabhupada's life. Prabhupada never told his disciples to give up the bad habits. Actually, interestingly, he never said. Shyam Sundar Prabhu, Prabhupada's early disciple, was carving Jagannath for first Rath Yatra in 1972 in Los Angeles, San Francisco. He was carving. He was a carpenter. So he was carving American. And Prabhupada was visiting and he was inspecting the carving, and then Shyam Sundar Prabhu had just smoked a cigarette and had kept the half-burnt cigarette on the top of Jagannath's head. Prabhupada saw that. So Prabhupada said that the journey between you and Krishna is only like this half-burnt cigarette long. That's all. You just have to travel this much. He did not get angry. He did not give him any shastric evidences. He did not smack him. He did not do anything. Okay, but Shyamsundar Prabhu heard that from his spiritual master and then never touched the grid again. But he actually never gave any instruction that what you should do and what you should not do. He just showed him that there is a choice that you have in your life. So we have to set an example in someone's life. Just by talking is not going to help. We have to take the trouble. We must be doing what we are preaching. Practice what you preach. And that will make me dear to Krishna because I'm following his instruction. If I follow Krishna's instruction, he likes it. He likes it. And I want to be liked by Krishna. We all want to be liked by someone in our life. Do you know this? We all want to be liked by someone. Even children want to be liked. That is why they do these stage performances and everyone is like, very nice, very nice, very nice, even though they must have done hundreds of mistakes. Adults, we also want to be liked by someone. And that someone should be Krishna first, because if you're liked by Krishna, then everyone else likeness will just follow. Like Prabhupada's life, right? Prabhupada is loved by each one of us. Why is he loved? Because he's loved by Krishna. Krishna loves Prabhupada, and because of that we love Prabhupada. Okay, any questions or can we go on? So there's one more point I wanted to say, that generally in Vedic knowledge, the initiation is for people who are very pious. You know, they have to be very purified. There are some different sanskaras that have to be done in their lives. And then someone comes to the platform of accepting initiation and going for a spiritual master. But Krishna consciousness is so pure that there is no need to follow all these steps. Immediately, one can directly take to Krishna consciousness. There is no regulation as to who can chant Hare Krishna and who cannot chant Hare Krishna. There is no restriction. There is no regulation. Because it is not dependent on the sanskaras performed before. Krishna consciousness is not dependent on anything. Ahetuki apratihata bhakti. It is not dependent. So this is what it means, that generally Vedic rituals are needed to perform the initiation ceremony, or to perform any like dvija, like when one becomes twice born. But by taking to Krishna consciousness directly, these rituals can be bypassed, because we have come to the conclusion of the rituals. Vedescha sarve ahameva vedya. Like Vedantakrit, Vedaviteva Chaham. That I am, by all the Vedic knowledge, I need to be known. So if somebody directly starts with Krishna, there is no need. Prabhupada was opening the Krishna Balaram temple in ISKCON Vrindavan. Okay, and he wanted very roaring Hare Krishna Kirtan to be performed for a long time. But the local Pindas, the local people of Vrindavan at that time, wanted Prabhupada to perform some Vedic ritualistic ceremonies, you know, the fire yagya and this yagya and that. But Prabhupada wanted just Hare Krishna. But because to please the people around the temple, he performed. But he said that I just want everyone to chant Hare Krishna very loudly. And that would have included everything. But to please people around us, I had to do this fire ceremony. Otherwise, there was no need for it. There was no need for it. Okay, this is a very nice verse. Please memorize this verse, 3.27. Each one of you, 21 of you, or how many people are there? 20. Everyone has to memorize this verse. I don't know how you're going to memorize. Some people record on their phone and then they listen to it while they are working, or when they're driving, or do something, or they read before they sleep in the night. 1 week is enough to memorize this verse. Each one. Okay, so we can go. It's a very important verse. Vimla Mataji, you want to read? Or you have a question?
I would like to read, chant.
Okay, Mataji, go ahead. Then Sumiti Mataji will take the next.
प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहंकार विमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते. Translation. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities, which are in actuality carried out by nature. Purport. Two persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level, many appear to be working on the same platform, but there's a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is a symptom of his nescience. He does not know that this gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesha, or the master of the senses of the material body, for due to his long misuse of the senses in sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Very nice, Mataji. Thank you. So six symptoms of a bewildered ego bewildered person is mentioned. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. So the bewildered spirit soul, the spirit soul which got bewildered, illusioned, mad, under the influence of three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by nature. Okay, Prabhupada is emphasizing 6. I could find out 6. If you can find out more, let me know. Symptoms of a person who is acting with false ego. Number 1, very convinced that I'm the doer of everything. You see, we hear that, right? I deserve a break because I work so hard. Sounds familiar? I deserve to enjoy because I have missed out so much in life before. Right? This is because that deserve, what do you mean by you deserve? Because it's coming from the voice of a false ego. That I'm the body and I am the Lord of all I survey. And if I had not done this, then then this work would have never been done. And because of me, it is done. So I am the enjoyer. Just and the number 2 is that he does not know that the mechanism of body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. Yantra Rudrani Maya. 18th chapter, Krishna talks about it. So the body is a machine. The body doesn't belong to the person. Our body doesn't belong to us. I think I have spoken about it in 10th canto. Srimad Bhagavatam, this is discussed. I want to say Narad Muni is saying it, but I can double check. That who does this body really belong to? Does this body belong to the mother who gives birth? Does this body belong to the mother's father? Because the mother's father can say that my daughter is my daughter, so this grandchild is my body. Or does the body belong to the fire to which it is offered after the spirit soul leaves the body? Or to the earth, where some people offer the body to the earth? Or to the animals, vultures, because some people throw the body out for wild animals to eat. Who does it really belong to? Okay, we must remember this every day. That am I this body, or if I am this body, then do I know about this body enough to say that I am this body? The materialistic person has no knowledge that he is ultimately under the control of Krishna. So the body itself is under the control of Krishna. If Krishna was not going to give me the air to breathe, I will not be able to breathe. Krishna is not going to give me the eyes, then I will not be able to see. Everything is controlled. Each and every part of our body is controlled. Even the blinking of the eye is under the control of a demigod. The person in false ego takes all credit for for doing everything independently, and that is a symptom of nescience. So not only are they think that they are the doer, but they also take a credit for it. Okay, does not know that this gross and subtle body is a creation of material nature under the order of Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna and Krishna consciousness. First, doesn't have a knowledge, and on top of it, does not even engage the body and mind in service of Krishna. It's a very unsteady and risky situation one is in. You see, if somebody doesn't know how to swim and they are thrown in the middle of the ocean, and now they have to figure out how to swim, that is the situation. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishi Kesha, the master of senses of the material body. For due to his long misuse of senses and sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by false ego, which makes him forget his internal relationship with Krishna. There is an eternal relationship with Krishna. Krishna bhuliya jeev bhogvancha kare, pashite maya tare chapatiya dhare. Krishna bhuliya jeev bhogvancha kare. Forgetting Krishna, the jeev or the soul is looking for satisfying the material senses. Pashite maya tare chapatiya dhare. And the witch like Maya then captures the soul. That yes, you're looking away from Krishna, you want to do this, let me capture you. There in that particular song, Maya is described as a witch like character, because a witch catches ghostly haunted. That's how it becomes. Okay, so we have to understand for our own self without looking at anybody around us. I need to understand my own self. Am I Krishna conscious or am I not Krishna conscious? Okay, it is not my business. Yes, preaching is my business. Preaching is everybody's business. Why we are not able to remember what we are reading? Why are we not able to remember what we are doing? Because we are not preaching. Is because we're not talking about it enough. If we don't talk about it enough, if we don't preach, then it will be forgotten. The knowledge will get rotten and it will be forgotten. The only way to remember the Krishna is to talk about Krishna to others. And if you don't have anyone to talk about it, then talk to the four walls of your house. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said that. Just preach, because even if the four walls hear, that is also beneficial. Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said that. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada's spiritual master. Okay, so we have to preach. Krishna likes it. Krishna says that in 18th chapter. There is no one who's more dear to me, and there will never be anyone more dear to me than who preaches this confidential knowledge to others. It doesn't matter how imperfect we are. Order is the order. You see, order is the order. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave order. Prabhupada said the same thing, preach. It does not matter how much imperfect I am. There is a verse in Chaitanya Chaitamrita. I want to say it is in Adi Leela, beginning chapters only, where by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a blind man can see stars in the sky. A lame man can become a lame man can cross over the mountains, and a dumb man can become a scholar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is very magnanimous. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very merciful, very merciful. And how will we invite his mercy in our life? By following his order. And his order is that you become a preacher. You know this, talk about it. Just don't leave it to your own self. Because you see, why we see so many people who are in Krishna consciousness and they're unhappy. There is no question to be unhappiness in Krishna consciousness. No question. Why are they unhappy? The only reason is because they're not preaching. That is the only reason. They're not talking about it enough. Okay, so it's Krishna consciousness grows. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I don't live in temples. I don't live in the house of a very big Brahmana. I don't live in the house of pious people. Then where do I live? I live where my devotees are singing and singing my glories. So we invite Krishna when we discuss about him. Krishna reveals himself. Don't we say that? Don't we have aha moments that, oh, I have so many. That, oh, okay, this was the meaning of this particular thing when we are talking to each other. So don't be shy and don't be like so much focused on like how imperfect I am and how ineligible I am or how much less read I am. Nothing. I am nothing. Nothing. Even if I read the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, whole Bhagavad Gita, I am still nothing. I was nothing and I will remain nothing. I can just become a servant. Okay, that is the situation. Nothing. Okay, Sumati Mataji, you can read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Tattvavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhogayoho gunaguneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. Translation: one who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, almighty armed, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work and devotion and work for fruitive results. Purport: Jai Srila Prabhupada. The knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position in material association. He knows that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and that his position should not be in the material creation. He knows his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge, and he realizes that somehow or other he is entrapped in the material conception of life. In his pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He therefore engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are all circumstantial and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all kinds of material reactions, which he considers to be the mercy of the Lord. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattvavit, for he knows also his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. So this particular verse, Prabhupada describes the other person's mentality. We heard the symptoms of a person who is Vimudhatma, especially foolish. And now we hear the symptoms of a person who is Tattvavit to Mahabaho. So Tattvavit, who is a knower of the absolute, his or her symptoms. First, is very convinced. This is a very nice line, right? This is a very nice line. Does not engage himself in senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. Okay, first is that person is very convinced of the awkward position in the material association. I don't want to be here, but I am here. So it's awkward. Imagine that you don't want to be somewhere, but you have to be there. That's awkward. And then not only that they are aware of their awkward position, but they're also aware of their real identity. They know what they don't want, and they also know what they want. And this is the definition of a complete self-awareness. Complete self-awareness is, okay, I know what I am, and I also know that what I am not. Okay, completely. So he knows his real identity as part and parcel of Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge, and then realizes that somehow or other I'm entrapped in the material conception of life. But because this world has matter and spirit, I can extract the spirit and dovetail it to the service of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. So they know, in theoretically, they know all these things. They know that I am on awkward position, knows that I am part and parcel of Krishna, realizes that I am entrapped in the material conception of life, realizes that I can use this spiritual part of the world to engage in Krishna service, and then they engage also. Engage himself in activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to activities of material sense gratification, which are all circumstantial and temporary. Imagine circumstantial and temporary. Very powerful. Prabhupada says, Bahura Rambha Laghu Kriya. Beginning of material activities is very, very big. Bahu Arambha. Arambha means beginning. Okay, Bahu Arambha means very big beginning. We can see, if somebody is doing some material activity, let's say these any material activity you take, let's say that building a house, somebody wants to build a huge mansion, Bahurarambha, very big, very, they put in so much effort, so much time, and there's so much of money is goes, and it's very magnanimous. Okay, laghu kriya, but the activity is so small. Laghu means small and kriya means activity. So the beginning is so big, but the activity is so small. They build a house, but then what are you doing inside that house? What are you doing? Sense gratification is very small. Why? Because it is circumstantial and temporary. Is only present in that particular circumstance. We have experience of it. Okay, when I was a little child, my enjoyment was playing with my friends and outside the house for 4 hours, 5 hours. Now that I'm an adult, that's not an enjoyment. I don't enjoy that anymore. So it was circumstantial. It was true for that particular circumstance, but it is not true anymore. And it was temporary. It's not everlasting. Anything. Prabhupada gives example of Bahura Rambha Laghu Kriya for marriage. Non-Krishna conscious marriage. You see, Indian weddings, very big. Very, very big. Very big arrangements. Bahura Rambha. Very, very big. My God, as if something is going to happen. But Laghu Kriya, what is happening? What is happening? Really, like people are getting married, but for what? For building a kingdom of sense gratification. If there is no Krishna, it is Laghu Kriya. It is really Laghu Kriya. One sannyasi in ISKCON, let me see if I remember his name. Bhakti Vigyan Krishna, Bhakti Vigyan Saraswati. I don't remember his name, but I was reading about his excerpt one time, and he said one of his disciples asked him, Maharaj, we are should we match horoscopes before before someone gets married? So sorry, sometimes sannyasis go very wild. So I was reading, he said, well, if you are going to somebody is going to get married for service of Krishna, then that marriage is not dependent on someone's planetary arrangements anyway. You see, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on anything. And if somebody is going to get married to without Krishna consciousness, then also, like, what are you matching? Like, how good your sense gratificatory life will be. So in either way, I don't see a reason to match the horoscopes, because if you're doing for Krishna, then Krishna will take care. And then if you're not doing for Krishna, then what are you matching? Like how nicely your house will be, how many children you will have, how much your earning will be. What is it? Ultimately, you're dying. It's circumstantial, temporary. What is this waste of time? He can say that, I cannot say that, but I just thought of it that I read that. Bhakti Vigyan Purna Swami, some Bhakti Vigyan Purna, I think he's in Mayapur. Okay, the next is, he knows that material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. He knows that my Guru Maharaj says this. I really like the way he says. Two things happen in this world. Okay, two things. One is that if something is happening to someone, that either Krishna is allowing it to happen or he's directly controlling it. So either he's allowing it or he's directly controlling it. There is nothing which is independent of Krishna. Nothing, not even anything. Okay, so in a devotee's life, a pure devotee's life, he directly controls. In others, he allows things to happen. Krishna has to allow. Okay, so a devotee of Krishna, and no matter what level, but if they're sincere, depends on the sincerity of the heart, they are aware. They're aware that this thing is happening in my life because Krishna is still controlling it. Krishna is everything is under the hands of Krishna. It is controlled. Okay, then they're not disturbed. The person who is not in Krishna consciousness gets very disturbed. Very disturbed. So many. No, sometimes they go in major depressive disorders. All these diseases are the diseases of the mind. And why is the mind disturbed? Because there is no Krishna. We are not giving mind what it really needs. We are feeding it everything else other than Krishna. But once we give Krishna to that mind, the same mind will be like, okay, well, then okay, well, I have to tolerate, but then I still have to continue with my journey in Krishna consciousness. But that does not happen. Nectar of Devotion explains that because Swami Prabhupada dedicates the whole chapter to this. It does not happen unless and until one is in close association with the devotees. It does not happen. Now I'm talking little high level in bhakti, but you have to remember, it is not going to happen by one's own endeavor. You see, Prahlad Maharaj also said it in Hiranyakashipu asked him, what is it that you learned the best? And then in that conversation, he never addressed his father as father. He said, oh, best of the demons. And in that discussion, he continues and says, Matirna Krishne Parato Satova Mitta Abhipadheta Griha Vritanam Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram Punha Punah Charvita Charvananam. Matir na Krishne, nahi aayegi mati. Mati intelligence nahi, it won't come. Na Krishne Parato Satova. Even if I try to understand in the association of my friends, Parato, or association of my society, or in association of anybody else, the mati to understand Krishna is not going to come. Whose life? Griha Vritanam, who has accepted the deep well of material life as it all in all. The deep well, deep dark well of material life as all in all. That person will never get intelligence to understand Krishna, even in the association of the friends, society, or personal endeavor. Why? Because they're very busy in punha punhas charvita charvananam, chewing the chewed. Chewing the chewed. They go on chewing the chewed, chewing the chewed, chewing the chewed. Okay, so that person is very disturbed because they're trying to do chew the chewed, chew the chewed, chew. But that doesn't happen in the life of a devotee who is consciously keeping association of other devotees. Living with devotees, I am not saying is easy. It's not, because we are not pure devotees. There is going to be some sort of misunderstanding here and there. Prabhupada said, where there are two vessels, they are going to make noise. Okay, but if I leave the association, then I really lose my chance to become Krishna conscious. I cannot be Krishna conscious alone. Cannot happen. Prabhupada made the whole society. Don't try to experiment in your life. I have seen it so many times. People leave, but Krishna consciousness is called as hot sugar juice. Acha, hot sugar juice is very sweet, but it is very, but because it is hot, there is some inconvenience to drink it, but because it is very sweet, one cannot give up. Anyone who has chanted Hare Krishna and who has heard Krishna's words with utmost sincerity in the heart cannot give up Krishna consciousness. They have to come back. We see people leave and then they find a way to sneak in again. Why? Because they were sincere. We must appreciate the sincerity and Krishna's mercy on them. And we will not be. Nectar Devotion, the whole chapter is dedicated on this number 6 point that I have labeled here. That person will never be able to understand Krishna if we are not in the association of the devotees. I cannot. But if I'm in the association of devotees, I am on a very fast track to become Krishna conscious. And Tattva with definition, we know this from second chapter, second verse. The one who knows Vadanti tat tattva vidas. Tattvam yagyanam advayam. Brahmaiti parmatmaiti bhagwaniti shabdate. That person is called Tattva, who knows the absolute truth in three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For he knows also his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme. The whole deal is this: Krishna, I belong to you. Somehow or other I have lost, and I have chosen to be lost for so many lifetimes. I want to come back to my senses. Okay. I guess we can stop here. If anyone has any questions.